Hello, welcome to my channel, Marta's Planning Mess. We're going to go over the Hobonich A6 journal that I am using for my worship planner. So the A6 is a fairly small size. It is half the size of an A5. Here's my Hobonich cousin from last year, and as you can see, that is half of it. So it is quite small. And for those of you familiar with the cousin but not familiar with the Techo original, this has a yearly spread, a monthly spread, and daily pages, but no weekly section. And so it is a slimmer book. Now, this is a very small size, and the thought of using this as a planner was kind of far out for me. But what I liked about it was how slim it is. This is actually the AVEC, which is, it just has January to June. And then the second half of that would look this blue color, because this Hobonichi cousin is also an AVEC. And this is just the July to December. So they have the yellow for the first half of the year and the blue for the second half of the year. And it makes it slimmer. And I wanted it to be slim because I like to keep this in my Bible case. So what do I use this for? The things I like to kind of track and see over time. I'm kind of one of those data collectors. I like to see information spread out over time physically. What I like to track in my Techo is I like to track what I'm studying for my Bible study. I like to keep track of prayer requests, and I like to write out my prayers. And then I also like to take sermon notes. So this at this point is the best option that I have. It hasn't been working out quite as much as I would like, so I probably will do something different next year. I don't know that I would necessarily switch mid-year. It's not failing me, but it's not quite doing what I want it to do. But for now, this is how I have it set up, and it is working fairly well. Okay, so inside, for those of you that are not familiar, this is just kind of a blank page here. That it's the one that gets glued down, so it kind of opens funny. Inside, you have 2025 calendar, and then you have 24 and 26 smaller should you need to reference those. For this kind of a planner, this is not something that I mess with much. Then it has a yearly section, and in the yearly section, this is all the different months, and then they have a row for every single day. And this is a Japanese company. For those of you not familiar with Hobonichi, they do offer products in Japanese and English. But if you want the AVEC, which is the one that breaks it into two books, it is only available in Japanese. But as you can see, it's got the months' names in English as well. The days of the week are in Japanese there, but that's because they do Saturdays in gray and Sundays in red. You can kind of figure out, even though I don't read Japanese, I can figure out exactly what day of the week it is fairly easily. So this section in a normal planner I would use for tracking something, and so I kind of set that up here, and as you can see, I've done absolutely nothing in it. So I don't know, this section might kind of go to waste, but that's okay. That wasn't the reason that I got this book, was to track anything. Tracking habits and symptoms are things that I like to do in my normal planning. Okay, so the monthly section, this section I like to use to keep track of what I'm studying. So for me, the way that I like to do, I like to have a different weekly setup for my worship schedule, because the lesson quarterlies that we go through at my church start Saturday and they end Friday. And so the weeks are divided up that way. And so for that, that's kind of how I have my week set up in my brain. But of course, the calendar is a Monday start, which is what I like as far as keeping track of what day is what. That's how my brain thinks. So when I started my week 1, I started in December, and they do give you that month of December. So I was able to keep track of what I did on those days, even though this is 2025. Those 2 days were actually several days were in 2024. So Here, I've been reading through the book of Psalms, and I was doing very steadily doing one psalm a day. And I started that last quarter. So starting in October in 2024, I had made a decision to not go through the Bible study quarterly from my church because it was very similar to the one we had just done. And that kind of frustrated me. I wanted to do something different. Didn't really have a good plan of what to do differently, but one of the things that I decided to do was go through the book of Psalms. So I was doing pretty well doing one psalm a day, like reading it, figuring out what verses really spoke to me, writing them down, kind of thinking about it, maybe verse mapping, etc. So I was doing a lot of that last quarter. So that was something that I was keeping track of right here. Was I doing a psalm or a different Bible verse? And then here, this is kind of a number section. How many days in a row am I being consistent with my worship? And so I struggle. Sunday, because it is a different day of the week and I'm not in a routine, it's hard for me to remember because I like to do my worship first thing. It's hard for me to remember to do it. And then I might completely forget because I've just been living in a different day. So that's usually where this falls apart. The weekdays, not a problem because I have that consistency. Saturday we do church and I've got things going on that way. So again, it's not a problem to remember, but Sunday is the one day that I struggle with. So the number is how many days in a row. And then the letter here had to do with what I'm studying. So I'm back in our Bible study quarterly, and so that's telling me which day of the week of the lesson that I went through. So like here you can see I went on a trip and I forgot my Bible case in my quarterly, so I didn't do anything in here. So here we get to Tuesday, and I haven't started my lesson, which was a Saturday. So I did 2 days at a time. So Saturday, Sunday, then Monday, Tuesday, then Wednesday, Thursday, and then I was back on my schedule. So when I'm doing a couple days in my quarterly at a time, it's hard in my time slot that I have blocked off to also do a psalm. So I got to my psalm there. There was church, did my psalm there. And then, there's some days where I'm in a rush, I'm running behind. And so getting a psalm a day has kind of slowly worn out because depending on the lesson, sometimes they have a lot of verses for you to look up and that takes time to read it, get the idea that they're wanting to write it down, maybe write a little thought, answer a question that they're asking, etc. Where other days it's more like just read through this information and think about it. So depending on how complicated the lesson study is for that day, it can depend on whether I have time to do my psalm. So I have not finished Psalms. I'm close, but I haven't finished it. So that's January. We've gotten into February a little bit. So yes, I still have 5 more Psalms and then we will be done. So that's how I'm using the monthly section to track that information. Okay, now let's go over as soon as the monthly section ends and they give you, of course, this is supposed to, June should be the last one, but they also give you July. And because remember I said I started early, so the Techo daily pages start on January 1, which was a Wednesday. So I wanted to start on Saturday, so I had to come up with a place to put all of those daily pages. So these were just 2 blank pages that were there between the monthly and the weekly and the daily section. So I was able to get my Tuesday and my Monday. And then this was a calendar for July that I just whited out so I could do my worship notes in there. So that was how I solved that problem of, Saturday being the beginning of the week for me to study and it being still in 2024. Okay, so I started off thinking maybe I wanted to write my prayers up here and then maybe do like notes down here or maybe verse mapping. So I did that a little bit. And as you can see, I was like running out of room and also running out of time a little bit too, because it can take a while to do that. So I kind of dwindled away from that and had my prayers kind of going farther. I had mapped this all out and drawn out my layout, which I never need to do too much in advance because I tend to change around a lot. And so I had to try and make that format work with what I was doing. These are the days I was gone, so nothing got put in there. So we're at Wednesday of week 1. That's what the 1 is for. Second day of the week, or second day of the month. So January to Thursday, week 1. That's what that little code is there for me. One thing that people can sometimes be frustrated with Hobonichi is at the bottom is this daily quotes. There's quotes at the bottom of every page, and it takes up a generous amount of space. So if that is a frustrating thing to you, this may not be the direction you want to go. If I need the space, I write on top of it. I might white it out, or I might just write on top of it. These pages for all of January are red. Then when we get to February, it's brown. Every month it changes. So these are lavender, and then more of a rosy red. And then we have like this chartreuse, kind of olive green, and then an olive green here. So if you're using black pen, especially if it's a wider nib pen, it can kind of cover that up, but you know, you can always use whiteout. So as I'm going through, it tends to be like, unless I write teeny tiny, which I don't mind to do and I can do, like for here where I did verse mapping, I mean, that's really tiny. And to do that, you need a very fine tip pen. So this is my favorite here. Oh, this is a 0.5. They do make the same Pilot G2 in a 0.38. So that one's even finer, which is the width that I like to use. I have, whenever I find ultra fine tip pens, I tend to collect them because I'm curious. I like to have them. So this in here I have, it's a different brand. I have it here, but you can't, unless you can read the Japanese, you won't know what it is, but you can see right there, it says 0.38 millimeter. So it's fine. And it came in like a rainbow colored set. So I'm going between blue and black, just for variety. Okay, so those were days that I had forgotten it. So here's the beginning of week 3. So my memory verse for the lesson, I did that, and I kind of did a verse mapping thing there, of some things that jumped out at me from the memory verse. Rather than writing a prayer down, it kind of comes and goes with me, what I put into the space. But you can see I need a pretty good amount of space, because what I'm doing is, if I am doing a psalm, then I'll take from the psalm what I got out of it, and I'll write that down, and then I'll kind of do my prayer off of that. But I might get a concept that I want to kind of chew on a little bit, and from something else I've read, and so I may not necessarily do the psalm to get me inspiration for what I'm going to write or with my prayer. So that's this space, you know, I tend to feel or come close to feeling, okay, so here is where it's falling apart. Because this works fine for daily, but what happens when I have a sermon that I want to take notes on? And maybe I just need a different book for that, but I kind of want it all together. So I'm having to go like really tiny, and that's what it looks like when you write on top of the words. You don't always read it super well. So thinking about next year, about something that maybe is slightly bigger. Maybe I'll move into a B6 format. I don't know. It's like I want an A5 page just for my Sabbath Sunday if I need to write sermon notes. And then I just want this space for every day. It works well. So I have yet to figure out what is really going to work for me. I've toyed with the idea of maybe a traveler's notebook size, which is about this width, maybe slightly larger, but it would be taller. So long and thin. But then if I had that much space for every day, that would be too much. The other idea I've thought about is just getting a notebook that is not dated. And so I just take up the space I need, draw in for the next date, and just go from there. And so it can just roll over as far as I need it to go. And I would probably set up the front with my monthly sections for tracking as well. I don't know. I haven't found the perfect solution. But in general, every day I'm pretty much having the space. But here's church notes that are spilling over, or I'm just writing and then suddenly forced to go smaller. This pen is, it's I think a 0.7, so it's hard to write small because the ink is so thick. So see, there's a Sunday where I got off cycle, forgot to do it. So this was Saturday. And so I filled it up with as small as I could write. And then I'm like writing on top of this down here. So again, struggling to do that. I need an 8-day week that's this size. That's pretty much what it is. And I could just write this way or write like this. I don't know. I'm chewing on it. I am a problem solver and a customizer, so I will eventually figure out what the best system is for me. But that is what I've been doing. So the other problem I had with this in my mind, I mean, back in the day, I used to use the Happy Planner narrow classic size. So it's basically traveler's notebook size. And it was a weekly spread. So it would have 4 days here. They were about that size, right on top of each other, and then 3 days here, and then a blank section here. And so that was a good space for like my prayer, just prayer, not reflecting or anything like that. And so initially I had thought, you can see here, I had thought that I could have like write my prayer there and then do some sort of study notes there. But I know like for my prayer, I can make it fit in this space. I don't have to write extra things, but I'm kind of enjoying writing extra things. So I don't know. I did see a Take a Note, the Take a Note journal. It's a brand, and they have 2 columns. It's A5 size, I believe, or you can probably get it in multiple sizes, but probably the A5 would work well. And so it's basically this page, and you've got this section for one day and this section for another day. And so it's on 4 pages. So you have like a blank one here. Then you have, say, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, flip the page, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So potentially that could work, as it would give me that extra space I might need to bleed over for notes. I don't know. Again, still thinking about it. So I had also thought that I could fit my prayer requests in here on the daily pages, and that turned out to be not possible. One of the things I had started doing was taking pictures of people or things. So I'm just going to kind of cover that up, but you can see there's pictures under there, and then here's my list I'm writing out starting in my first week. So this right here is it is a weekly, this is a Hobonich, and it's a supplement for those that want the weekly with their small Techo, because they don't make a weekly section in this size, unfortunately. Now, I don't know why it's smaller than an A5 size. I don't know if this is passport size. I've not really used anything smaller than an A6 to tell you exactly, but it is smaller, and it has, a vertical layout, which of course I love, of your weekly spread. And so this is what I have been using for prayer requests. I guess in my mind, I thought maybe whatever happened per day, I would write on there. It's kind of a small space, so I don't necessarily love the format, but I've kind of been just ignoring the fact that this is a vertical layout and just kind of writing out things as they come up, and then putting pictures in of things I want to kind of remember. So that's what I have been doing in this section. So kind of my prayer requests are on the side, and any pictures I have of things, of prayer requests I want to keep in mind, I put there. And I was thinking this would end up being a little bit more of like a collage format for my prayer requests, but it just helps. Like when I sit down, I just start at the beginning, and I can see the different categories of things I'm praying about and the specifics, and just kind of flip through as I'm praying. So I'm thinking about all those things, and this is small. This can come with me. I start a new week. So like this is this week, and I've just kind of had a burden for our government. And so, praying for President Trump and his decisions and things he's doing, that God's will be done in those things. So if I have, like our church does, a phone cast where if there's somebody that's sick or needs prayer, they will call out and, ask us to pray. And so that's a lot of times what these pictures are from. If something comes up, I'm like, oh, I want to remember that. Or if I see somebody on Facebook asking for it, that's a good place to like grab their picture and stick it in. So I haven't had any of those for a little while, but as they come, I'll keep sticking them in, and I'll have a page per week, and we'll just go through there. So the major positive thing about this is the size and the portability. That is working well for me. The layout isn't perfect. But I think it's perfect enough. Unless I find something that's like amazing to override this, I can't imagine myself switching. But this is what I'm going to stick with, unless I get to a point where it just doesn't work for me. And hopefully that gives you some ideas of things that you can do to kind of journal or supplement your worship time. If you're like me and you like to track things, it's a way to track, if you're doing a 10 days of prayer, did I remember every day, or a certain Bible study where you're at in that. It can be a fun way to do it. Hopefully that was helpful for you, and thanks for watching.